Okay, so today we're going to be talking about comparing numbers and telling which one is bigger or smaller. It's one of the most important things that you learn to do in math class when you're in school, is figure out which numbers are bigger, so that when you are shopping, you can compare numbers. You can find percents of numbers and see, oh, if this is 30% off and this is 45% off, which one's a better deal? Right? Which one is going to help you save more? Or in fractions, if you're measuring something and something is 2/3 or something is 2/5, which one is more? Okay? Okay, so let's start with what we're going to talk about. How are we going to do this? Well, the number one thing you have to remember is that in order to compare numbers, you have to put them in the same form. Okay? In other words, if you have two numbers and one of them is 2/3 and the other one is 40%, how are you going to compare those? 2/3 and 40% are not in the same form. So you can't look at these numbers and see, what do we compare? One of them is a percent, one of them is a fraction. So what should we do? How can we put them in the same form?
You would make the percentage with the decimal thing, and then you do the fraction.
Good. So we convert the percent to a decimal, 0.4, and then that is 4/10, which we can reduce to 2/5, right? And so let's put 2/5 over here, okay? Now, 2/3 and 2/5. How do we compare these?
Compare the bottom number.
Okay. What does the bottom number tell you?
Which one's bigger?
Which?
How much? What's the total of the set that they have?
Okay, it tells you how many you would use to make a whole. You'd use 5 of these pieces to make a whole. You'd use 3 of these pieces to make a whole. So that can be helpful. One of the things that can help you do then is to say, well, 2 out of 5, is that bigger than a half or smaller than a half? That's less than a half, isn't it? 2 out of 5 is less than a half. How about 2 out of 3? That's more than a half. So that's one way. Once you have them in fraction form, that's one way you can tell which one is more. To compare them to halves. This is less than a half. This is bigger than a half. So we use the symbol, the less than sign, which is this sign right here, which says 2/5 is less than 2/3. That's what this statement says. 2/5, stop doing that. Okay. 2/5 is less than 2/3. Okay? This sign, it's an arrow pointing to the left. It means less than. And on a number line, it means that 2/5 is to the left of 2/3 on a number line. Like this. 2/3, if here is half, then 2/3 is like right here. And 2/5, let's get rid of this. So here's 0 and here's a half. 2/5 is about right here. 2/5 2/5 is to the left of 2/3. So 2/5 is less than 2/3. Trevor.
Oh, never mind. I was just mixing. Never mind. I was mixing.
Okay. Keep on. Turn around.
The problem is 5 out of 16 and 1/4. 1/4 is bigger than 5 out of 16.
All right. So now let's say that we have numbers that don't have the same denominator, and let's say that both of them are less than a half. Now what do? How can we compare them now? Well, in fractions, if the pieces are all the same size, then we can just figure out how many pieces there are in each one. Okay? And what we do is, with a fraction, you can find a common denominator, or make the bottom number the same. Convert both fractions to equivalent fractions, but they have the same denominator. So, let's take the one that you said, Kivan. What were the numbers that you said?
5/16. 5 out of 16
5/16
and 1/4.
and 1/4. Okay? One is 5 out of 16, one is 1/4. Now, if we could make this 1/4 into 16ths, then we can just compare the top numbers. So, how could we change 4 to 16? Keep on. Times it by 4. Right, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you multiply the bottom number times 4, then you can multiply the top number times 4 to make an equal fraction. So, 1 times 4 is 4, and that means 1/4 is the same as 4/16. Then we can, if we have 5 out of 16 versus 4 out of 16, which one's bigger? Darren?
5 out of 16.
5/16. So we use the greater than sign. 5/16 is greater than 1/4 or 4/16. Alyssa.
But if it was like, let's say there were 16 pieces in the bowl. Right, so if it would be like, I don't know, 16 pies, and then there would be like, whatever numbers, and then that, it would be like 5 pieces. And then the other one, there would be 4 pieces, and each piece is bigger. And it would be the four pieces, because of bigger sizes.
No, because if we have 2, and let's say that these are the same size, okay? And one of them is cut into 16ths, which means that every 4 pieces has, or every fourth has 4 pieces. So 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay? And in this one, this is just 1/4. So in that case, this is 5/16. It's a little bit more than 1/4. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pieces that are the 16ths would be bigger than 1/4. Because if we cut 1/4 into 16ths, and there was 4 pieces on each of these, then 4/16 is less than 5/16. 5/16 is greater than 4/16. Okay? That's how we could show that. There's a lot of different ways to show that. But this shows that 5 pieces of 16ths is more than 4/16. The pieces are the same size once they have the same denominator. Okay? Leo?
So how do you got 16 with the 4. Did you have to figure out which number times 4 would go in 16, and then you multiply it by that, and then do the top numbers?
Yes, it's the number that they both go into. Let's say that we were comparing.
Like, what if there's one that doesn't go together?
Right, so let's say that we have 5 sevenths, and we're comparing 5 sevenths and let's see, 8 elevenths. Okay? 5 sevenths and 8 elevenths. We'd have to look at both numbers and think, what do both of these go into? Both numbers could go into a number that, if we just multiply them by each other,
Oh, 77.
yeah, and we can convert them both to 77ths. Because 11 times 7 is 77. So if we do this times 11, we do this times 11. 55. And we do this times 8, or sorry, times 7 to get 77. And so we do this times 7. 8 times 7 is 56. So what would we put in the middle here? Shania?
The greater than symbol, then this one.
Which one points to the left? Which one starts with an L?
Less than.
Less than. 55 77ths is less than 56 77ths. Okay? And just remember, the less than sign always points to the
Left.
to the left. The greater than sign points to the right. Okay? Let's do one more from your worksheet. Let's see that we have to put these in order from least to greatest. So we have 3 numbers. Number 5. 3 eighths. 5 sixteenths. And 1 fourth. Okay? So here's what you need to do. Convert all of them to a number that they all go into, a common multiple. Guys, stop. Pay attention. What do all of these numbers go into, Clinton?
They'll go to 16.
They'll go to 16. So convert this to 16ths by multiplying by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Then this one's already in 16ths. So convert this one to 16ths.
4 times 4.
And that's 4 16ths. Now we have to rewrite them from least to greatest. And use the original numbers. Okay? So now, we use 1 fourth. 1 fourth is less than 5 sixteenths, which is less than
3 eighths.
3 eighths. So this is how you write your answer. These are commas in between. You can also put a semicolon in between. Okay? Calvin.
I didn't get a worksheet.
Okay. Leo.
Can we do 6?
Yes. Number 6.
They all go into 5, I know that.
Okay. Yes. Go back to this. Number 6. That one has a percent in it, doesn't it? So what are the original numbers?
Oh,
Yeah, read them up. Read
oh,
them.
alright. 0 and 7 tenths, then 82% and 5 fourths. But how do you pronounce that? 4 fifths?
4 fifths. Yep. Now, Leo, do you remember when we looked at the fifths yesterday in those fractions? Could we convert this to tenths and then write it as a decimal? Yeah. 4/5 is the same as what in tenths?
4/5. Oh, wouldn't it be 60%, would it?
Just multiply by 2, right? To convert it to tenths.
Okay, and then that would be 8. So it would be 8 over 10.
8 out of 10, 8 tenths. And then what is that as a decimal?
I don't know.
8 tenths. This is 7 tenths.
So that would be 8 times
So this would be 0.8.
8. Oh,
Okay? And what would this be as a decimal? Go ahead.
82%.
Yeah, what would that be as a decimal?
0.82, right? 8200.
Yeah. Which would be a little bit more than 8 tenths.
That would basically be 80, right?
That would be like 80 hundredths, yep. And this would be like 70 hundredths.
Oh,
So now we can write them in order.
so.
So this one's the lowest, 0.7, comma. What's the next highest?
Then it would be 80. Or the,
Use the original number.
4/5. And then 82%.
Good. Okay? So it takes a lot of converting and thinking and realizing what these numbers mean. Okay? Converting them to fractions with common denominators, or converting them to decimals. Decimals are always going to be the easiest to compare. If you can get them all in decimal form easily, that's always the easiest to compare. Because then you can just compare the places, right? That's much easier than fraction form. But some fractions don't convert to decimals very easily, like 2/3, or like some of those that are repeating decimals, okay? Then, whenever you write your answer, write the original number. Use the original numbers in the problem to write your answer from least to greatest, okay? Yeah, the decimals will help you figure it out. So write the order from least to greatest.